The ongoing atrocious war in Ukraine that was initiated by Russia and provoked by the West has raised several questions in many people's minds. How can Europe, that was the main battleground for 2 world wars, put itself in an ever closer position to another one? This time, with an added threat of nuclear use that will not only severely harm the current generation, but many generations to come. Why are some of those speaking out against the war being silenced and not given an opportunity to speak and present their views on mainstream media? How were the illegal wars waged by the US and its Western allies different than that of the Russian war in Ukraine? Why is it legal, promoted, and encouraged to support one nation's rightful resistance against an occupier, yet another nation's rightful resistance against a longer-lasting occupier is illegal, demonized, and not even on the table? Just over 100 years ago, the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, wrote, quote, "We had expected the great world-dominating nations of white race upon whom the leadership of the human species has fallen, who are known to have worldwide interests as their concern, to whose creative powers were due not only our technical advances towards control of nature, but the artistic and scientific standards of civilization. We had expected these peoples to succeed in discovering another way of settling misunderstandings and conflicts of interest. Within each of these nations, high norms of moral conduct were laid down for the individual, to which his manner of life was bound to conform if he desired to take part in a civilized community. These ordinances, often too stringent, demanded a great deal of him. Much self-restraint, much renunciation of instinctual satisfaction. He was above all forbidden to make use of the immense advantages to be granted by the practice of lying and deception in the competition with his fellow men. The civilized states regarded these moral standards as the basis of their existence. They took serious steps if anyone ventured to tamper with them, and often declared it improper to even subject them to examination by critical intelligence. It was to be assumed, therefore, that the state itself would respect them and would not think of undertaking anything against them which would contradict the basis of its own existence. Observation showed, to be sure, that embedded in these civilized states there were remnants of certain other peoples, which were universally unpopular, and had therefore been only reluctantly, and even so not fully, admitted to participation in the common work of civilization, for which they had shown themselves suitable enough. But the great nations themselves, it might have been supposed, would have acquired so much comprehension of what they had in common, and so much tolerance for their differences, that foreigner and enemy could never be merged, as they still were in classical antiquity, into a single concept." End quote. The foreigner and enemy mentality hasn't gone anywhere 100 years later. Descendants of foreigners and enemies are today audaciously speaking out against new foreigners that they are presenting as enemies and invaders, not because of any crime they committed, but for the color of their skin, their religious background, and their lust for life and escape from oppression. These people are not only allowed to speak and spread their venom, but they also come to power and implement their dark ideology on the masses. There are no legal implications for their actions, let alone laws that stop them before they even think of starting. Instead, the world post 9/11 and the criminal wars that followed saw the birth of a new dystopian, totalitarian, privacy-raping, liberty-depriving deep state. When I say this, I do not mean by any way to be dramatic, maintain your attention, or repeat what some deem to be cliches. I rather point out what should be obvious: mass surveillance, that we already accepted today as a safety measure, was followed by mass control and is slowly trying to gain full control, whether it be control of movement, thought, or free speech. Significant advancement had already been achieved there. Our ancestors fought and died to protect these things, and in many parts of the world, our brothers and sisters in humanity from different races and religions are still fighting to obtain just some of them. The irony is that those who fought and are still fighting for them could be in a far better position than those who already have them but are slowly losing them without even realizing. Those who are fighting are alive. Those who are not are already dead. It reminds me of the Quranic verse, كَأَنَّمَا يُسَاقُونَ إِلَى الْمَوْتِ وَهُمْ يَنْظُرُونَ, as if they were being driven away to death while they were looking on. The introduction of fear phases, followed by false flags, diseases, amongst other battles the supposedly enlightened world is fighting, heightened people's emotions to levels not seen before in modern history, especially with a significant technological shift in the last 2 decades, luring them to accept the new order for their safety, to fight terrorism and against the new enemy without asking questions. Asking questions in such times is deemed unpatriotic, immoral, and even blasphemous, respectively. Quote, people will all of a sudden behave without insight, like imbeciles, as soon as the necessary insight is confronted by an emotional resistance, end quote. That was also written by Freud over 100 years ago. How can one overcome emotional resistance and ignorant impulses, you may ask? Well, how can you fight them without knowing that they exist? That's number one. You need to realize that they exist. In most cases, people fail to read the signs that lead them there. Imagine you're doing 80 miles an hour on a road with no speed signs and there's a hidden bend down the road. Unless you're very alert, have a sharp response, and excellent reflex, you will crash and burn. The problem is that those who paved the road know the signs but deliberately hide them because they don't really care if you do crash and burn. How else can we explain the double standards practiced so frequently and bluntly, whether it's to do with wars, freedom of expression, human rights, when they know that their actions or lack thereof cause deaths? Why are there no red lines when it comes to criticism, mockery, and ridicule of the divine, the religion, yet there are firm red lines, barracks, and even armored tanks when it comes to certain historical and contemporary events, figures, states, or just simply opinions? If you're on the wrong side, you're cancelled, silenced, and banned. Modern-day democracy is, more than ever, becoming an illusion with a fake sense of power to the people. We democratically elect who the mainstream media and tabloids want us to, due to adequate coverage, propaganda, spins, promotion, and sugarcoating. This democratic event leads to an all-out authoritarian rule for the next 4 years or so, disregarding any previous promises made to the public, filled with U-turns, and does not revert back to the people for major, life-changing policies that lay out the fate of the people for years, if not generations, to come. Is this version of democracy a true reflection of it? If so, one is really right to question its relevance altogether. The birthplace of it sure wasn't like this. Athenian democracy was direct, not representative. Your attendance was a right, and you could do so whenever you wish to vote on any important matters. There was no guaranteed term. You didn't have career politicians, corpses, or corporate representatives in parliament. The only term was for those who ran the functioning of the assembly, and they were chosen on a yearly basis. Real power to the people. The only significant power to the people we have today is the power to ridicule. Make fun of your PM, MP, or president. Doesn't really matter. They get away with murder. actual murder. For example, in the UK, people swear at the government 24/7, and whenever they have a chance to get rid of them, they vote for them again. Most of them don't even know why they do that. This complex situation isn't one that coincidentally happened. It's a result of meticulous planning, and the people were not part of it. Modern-day democracies have powers that previous kings, queens, sultans, and emperors did not have. Major caliphates, for example, didn't interfere with the education system. They didn't outline how your children should be educated or indoctrinated, in today's reality to be more specific. You were not penalized for making basic life choices. Religious and ethnic minorities lived by their faiths and traditions and were not criticized nor forced to accept the values and norms of the majority to be able to live happily, freely, and with dignity, unlike several enlightened democracies nowadays. The modern state is gradually stripping democracy of everything but its name under various excuses. And whether you agree with those excuses or not, you definitely shouldn't be agreeing with what they're leading to. Traditionally, when a central government gains increased powers, it hardly ever gives them up out of free will. What has been fought for previously would require another battle. Take the COVID measures, for example. Had people not been on the streets protesting against the draconian measures that reach to a level where they interfere with people's freedom of movement, right to work, walk, and meet other people, things might have been different today. The more complacent and dismissive we are to these things, the more vulnerable and susceptible we get to their results. You need to take ownership, educate yourself, and train. Training isn't just for your muscles. You must also train your mind and make it aware. Track its performance. Train on how you behave and not let yourself go before it gets too late. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.